Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Underworld podcast, your twice weekly source for all the latest breaking Star Wars news, rumors, and discussion. And this week we are back to talk about The Bad Batch, Season 2, Episode 14, Tipping Point. Not technically the second last episode of the season, but the second last week of Season 2, because next week we got our two-part finale, and then I assume it's going to be another 3 years or however long it was in between season 1 and 2 until we get season 3. So brace yourselves for another long wait, I'm sure. But let's not think about that. Let's focus on these last couple of episodes that we have to enjoy. And let's break them down here tonight on the podcast. First, though, introductions are in order in case you're new to the show or you've forgotten who we are. That can happen. My name is Dominic Jones, and with me, as always, he's the founder of the Star Wars Underworld. It's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Why, hello there, everyone. And yeah, I like the Bad Batch this week. It was a good episode. It was a good episode. I didn't stay up for it, which means that when I don't stay up for an episode, it's actually good.
Do you
think, I think I just
Ben,
jinxed it last week.
Do you think, being well rested and like in a good mood and not tired from the previous day, do you think that helps your enjoyment of the show?
It has nothing to do with it. What are you, crazy?
Sure, Ben. Okay. Also with us, as always, from the Raeside, it's Hannah Raeside.
G'day there. Good to be back. And again, another week of me just copying whatever Ben says. I totally agree.
Copycat.
Like super copy loath cat, I believe the term is. Yeah, super happy with this episode. Which is just something I think haven't said about Bad Batch in a couple weeks' time. So very interested to get into the discussion and get into it. Yeah, good times.
All right. And also joining us live from WonderCon, good friend and co-host Chris Seekell.
That's right. We are at the Star Wars Underworld panel right now. Say hello, everybody. Everybody's very excited to watch our podcast live.
For everybody who is listening to this, Chris is in a room at WonderCon. He's got the WonderCon background, but the room is completely empty. He found the one quiet place in the con, and he spun the camera around to show all the empty seats.
Very good play-by-play.
Yeah.
You have a future in broadcasting.
Hey, he shoots, he scores.
But yeah, no, it's great to be at another con. Not a massive Star Wars presence here. There's about a few Star Wars panels each day. I just went to the Craig Miller panel. He was the original OG director of fan relations at Lucasfilm back when the first two movies were coming out. He has a book called Star Wars Memories about his memoirs and history with everything. And he was telling just kind of funny stories about the early marketing days of when Star Wars wasn't popular and what it was trying to market something that people were very confused about. Really funny.
Nice. That sounds awesome. What was the best story he told today?
The best story that he told was that for Empire Strikes Back, they had a phone line that you could call to get like spoilers about the movie. And they recorded like Mark Hamill and Anthony Daniels and Carrie Fisher like talking about the movie and things their characters were like that was happening to them. But they gave the phone number, the number 1-800-521-1980 for May 21st, 1980, which is when the movie would come out. And it just so happens that phone number was in the state of Illinois. So they set it up in Illinois. And so many thousands of people called this number to get a preview of the movie that it shut down the entire Illinois 1-800 number system. So you could not actually call a 1-800 number in Illinois for days until they added more lines.
All that late night TV shopping that people were doing in Illinois was just cut off by the Empire Strikes Back.
Wow, that's so cool.
So yeah, it was hilarious. So yeah, it sounded like a really. I mean, he was super young. He was like in his early 20s. He was like a college student when he got this job in the 70s. So it was really kind of inspirational to hear about how he was like running the whole like fan relations thing and the fan club and like all that stuff and the newsletter as like a young adult back in the day. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Awesome. I wish they'd bring back the phone line.
Yeah,
I want to call the phone line and get Mandalorian spoilers.
It's kind of like their version of like what happened when that first black and white script table read photo got released from The Force Awakens and it broke like StarWars.com. Similar.
Those are the days.
Well, I mean, it's 40 some odd years later. Surely the technology has improved to the point where we could still do this. We could we could make this happen and not shut down the entire state of Illinois by just calling in, getting
how it's Illinois and of all states. It's like so random. It's so great.
Because they're like, well, we have to have the number 521 because that's when the movie comes out. But wait, that is not in LA. We're gonna have to put a phone in Illinois. That's fine.
So what? Did like he drive to Chicago and just like set up one phone and plug it into a wall somewhere and like, all right, that's it. We're done. All right, good.
Sounds like that's what happened.
Job well done, everybody.
Marketing done. That's all you need to do.
The 80s were a time. What? Something else. Nowadays, they're like, you're lucky when you get a single picture and a single trailer. Now, back then, they're like, call this phone line for spoilers. Amazing. All right. Well, let's I'm sure we'll talk some more about WonderCon next week on the show and a little bit more about what's going on Star Wars wise over there. But let's hit a few plugs and then we will start talking some Bad Batch. So as always, want to remind you to punch the old subscribe button, Chewy, or the new subscribe button if this is the first time you're watching or listening to this. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts or your YouTube videos, which I guess you can only get YouTube videos on YouTube. I realized that as I was saying it. Anyways, if you're on YouTube, you can become a channel member. And if you're listening live, you can super chat with us if you want to support the show financially. And in between shows, join up the Star Wars Underworld Discord server, Star Wars Underworld Network Discord server to keep the discussion going throughout the week. All right, let's dive into things. Let's talk Tipping Point. As we said, season 2, episode 14 of The Bad Batch, written by Jennifer Corbett and Matt Michnovitz. I double checked that this week. Those are definitely who wrote this episode.
You are correct.
Yep. Also had Ben confirm it for me too. And directed by Saul Ruiz. Basically,
you predicted that one.
Yeah, right. For the first time, we basically have all the Bad Batch characters in the same episode this year. And it hasn't really happened in the previous 13 episodes. So kind of exciting, kind of momentous occasion. Let's go around the table, give some initial impressions. And Ben, start us off. What'd you think?
Yeah, so this was absolutely the episode I was expecting to see last week, like full stop. Like this is the episode that I wanted last week. And yes, I'm not going to be too hard on it. I know what they're trying to do here, and it shows in this episode too that we're setting up something perfect to ultimately ruin it for the Batch. So it's not going to be smooth sailing from here on out, as perfect as things seemed in the last episode. And this is just great. And you just blew my mind, the fact that this is the first time the entire season we've had both Crosshair and the other Batchers in one episode, which I think makes this one of the best episodes of the season. I think the opening space scene was fantastic. This has been a quite the past couple weeks for some incredible space combat, and also in atmosphere combat with spaceships. So just great stuff. And then also just the story elements, and just Crosshair being the MVP of all MVPs, like just absolute, and also being absolutely merciless. The way he just kills those stormtroopers when he's getting off the table is just blows my mind. But yeah, this is a great episode. I can't wait to get into it further.
Okay, all right. Ben is feeling good. Hannah, what about you? Your initial impressions of the episode?
Yeah, very, very similar. The episode itself, which I'll focus on, was really, really good. Really, really enjoyed it. I love the tone. I think they cut back between the two storylines, where we were and things very well. It was a really cool kind of opening scene in space. Gregor, was that Gregor? No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
Who am I? It was. Yeah. And Hauser, and you're going against the Empire. It felt really good. Felt very Star Wars Rebels to me. I really enjoyed that opening scene, and opened some interesting things with they're still continuing with this testing, which I think is such a fascinating concept. And I just enjoyed the tone of this episode overall. I thought it was really, really enjoyable episode.
A good tone and a good episode for Hannah. Chris, over to you. Your initial impressions of Tipping Point.
Yes, and also my complete impressions as well, since I will be leaving after
complete impressions.
Full impressions.
Full impressions.
You're going to do an impression of the entire episode. Out the episode for us, right?
Audio drama right now. Here we go.
Let's go. You can see the thought entering Chris's mind of, am I going to try and do the voices? No.
Don't remember a single line. I only watched it once. This is an interesting episode because it proves to me that they actually can do what they've been trying to do for a very long time. Like, I feel like since the year 2014 and Star Wars Rebels, they've been trying to make something like this, like a character-based episode that has lots of different characters and situations in it, that is then also moving the plot forward and like is paced really well. Like, they've come close to this many times, but this is the first time I've seen it all come together really well and the balance be good. And it really reminded me of your typical like serial show that you'd have on like Netflix, like your 8 episode or 10 episode show. Like that's what it felt like. And it reminded me of pacing of like Game of Thrones and like, certain superhero shows, like lots of stuff, because they were able to bring in all of the characters from the show in the same episode and have good scenes with all of them and character development with all of them and move the plot forward with all of their stories all in one episode. So I'm really impressed with this. I don't know why it's taken this long to set this up, but it's fine. They've gotten it. Better late than never. It's there, and they've done it, and I'm super excited. This episode just was paced so well. Everything in it was interesting. Everything in it had a purpose to it. Everything developed a character, moved some type of plot line forward. It was just a fully utilized screen time for everything. I thought that the opening sequence was an amazing action sequence. I thought that the stuff with Crosshair was really interesting. Kind of seeing his character do a 180 and now trying to get out from under the thumb of the Empire is amazing. And then I think that there's some validation for last week's episode with Pabu, now seeing potentially some setup. I have a feeling that there might be a little bit of a battle happening on this planet. And one of the reasons why we spent so much time getting to know it is that's not just like a throwaway episode. Like, they're actually, I think, developing something where we have a connection to this place and the characters there, so that it emotionally pulls us stronger when like some action actually really does happen there. So I think that's really, really fascinating. So for me, this is a really great episode. This is what I want the show to be. This is what I want character-based, serialized storytelling to be. And I want this to be like the model for like what the rest of the show is like. I want like the whole show and every episode to be like this. I think it can range in tone a bit, but I want this pacing. I think it's perfect. So for me, this is a 10 out of 10 episode. Again, it shows that when Jennifer Corbett one of the top executive producers for the show goes in and like writes something, like you can tell why she has that position. Like everything she touches, I think, is pretty gold, and this episode included.
All right, 10 out of 10. Well, Chris, enjoy WonderCon.
Thank you,
and we'll talk to you on Thursday.
Bye, Chris.
Good day.
Good day.
Is good day a
Good
goodbye
day
as
to
well,
you.
or
is that a good day? Wow, that was awesome.
Either or works. Yeah,
either was brilliant.
Yeah. Well, let me just say, I hated this episode.
I swear to God,
it was like an Oreo that had just trash in between instead of filling. No, obviously it was great.
For the love of God.
Obviously it was great.
Jeez.
A really strong episode. And like we've been saying, like this brings together everything. It brings together all the characters. Echo's back, Crosshair's back. We're finally gonna reunite the Bad Batch after breaking it up pretty significantly over the course of this season by removing Echo and this year and Crosshair last year, and putting some tension between the three remaining members of the Bad Batch, or four remaining members, excuse me. And so now to sort of be building towards reunion in the finale, I think is an exciting place to be. And yeah, just a really strong episode all around. Again, we'll sort of go through this one chronologically. I think that's the easiest, best way to do it. And we'll start with that rescue sequence with Echo and Gregor and a few other clones that I don't think we've met before. Like one of them's name is like Fireball or something,
which is badass, but I don't think we've met him before.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They attack an Imperial prisoner transport ship and rescue Commander Hauser and two other random clones that I think have names, but I don't know if we've ever met them before. Hannah, I'll throw it to you. What'd you think of this sequence and seeing Hauser back and seeing this guy that we saw defect last year, finally get some help, be rescued at long last?
Yeah, I thought this was such a cool scene here, and I sound so negative, but it just makes me like, why wasn't this like storyline C throughout the season? Why wasn't this more of what we saw? Like, this was kind of all set up back in what episode was it? 9 and 10, the Chuchi episodes.
Yeah.
So that was all set up then. Like, why haven't we been getting a little insight into what Echo's been doing with Gregor working on how they're figuring out where the clones are and how to save them and all these kinds of things? Why wasn't that more of a storyline? Because I really loved it. I thought it was a really cool sequence. And there's one thing at the end there that I'm gonna leave for Ben in his corner, but I thought that was a really cool connection to connecting it to the Mandalorian. Yeah, I just thought this was a great sequence. It was just darkly lit. I love that also in Bad Batch when they have those dark scenes, and yeah, it was just an awesome opener. It really hooked me into what was going to be happening in the episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just seeing Hauser in that first shot, on whatever prison planet that was, you're sort of like, oh, okay, they're bringing back this guy.
Right.
Something's happening. Yeah, where are we going with this? And to then follow that up with that pretty incredible rescue sequence. The clones, I like, the clones using the stun blasts, showing that they're the good guys. They're not out there to kill everybody. And then to have it, be juxtaposed with the Imperial officer who you knew was a jerk just from his hairstyle. Doing the electric cyanide pill. Which sounds like a dance from the 70s, the electric cyanide.
Oh my God, that's so true.
It's Palpatine teeth.
Palpatine teeth. I like that. That's a good one. That's good. Also sounds like a dance move from the 70s. Oh, that guy's doing the
Palpatine
cyanide.
Teeth.
Yeah, the Palpatine teeth. And then the electric cyanide. Ben, what'd you think of the opening sequence here?
No, I thought this was fantastic. Honestly, this was like one of the best scenes in the show. It felt, I think, Hannah, I think you mentioned this earlier, it felt like Rebels. This felt like the opening scene of a Rebels episode. Like it felt like, oh, they're coming in with the ship and they attack things and they clean house with the Imperials and they get what they want and they get out of there just in the nick of time as the Star Destroyer shows up. Like, the classic rebel stuff and just kind of shows, I think,
that is very
kind
rebels.
Yeah,
I didn't put that together.
I was ready for the dun 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 to pop up.
Exactly.
I was
But it
waiting for that.
shows. But it shows we're getting closer to that era. We are getting into this era where we have people just running and gunning and fighting the Empire best they can, but also getting out of there just in the nick of time. I think it's just great. And I like this whole idea that the clones are really the first people to organize a rebellion against the Empire. Like they're basically the only people out here that are actually fighting. I'm sure Luthen's out there somewhere doing something. But like he's not flying against doing crazy stuff like this.
He's risking it all for something real.
He's doing something
real. He's doing something real.
Whatever it is, it's something real.
But actually, and it was a really cool ship. Like that ship that kind of has this little container that comes off of it, and then it drills into the top of the ship, and then Gregor just goes into the bottom and just like distracts them. Like it's a really cool concept.
Yeah. Well, and I love the way the ship moved through space. How it had the like air push thing, like it didn't have like a rocket. Yeah, it looked like how things like actually move in space without like a a jet fuel kind of thing. It was I thought that was really cool. And having the
Krieger. Sorry, I just saw Francisco saying Krieger. My current obsession is just thinking about how Luthen says the name Krieger.
That's what they should bring into season 3 of the show.
Yes!
Let's finally meet
God.
Anto Krieger. Yeah,
I don't care about him. The Empire find out we know.
But you know who will
go.
Yeah, but Omega will care about Krieger. She'll care.
Yes.
She'll care big time.
Yes.
How will she pronounce Krieger? It would be like Krieger.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Krieger.
Krieger.
Yeah, there you go. Krieger.
Into Krieger.
Okay. Let's all stop saying
Krieger.
Krieger.
Let's stop. Stop.
Jeez.
Yeah. This is what you tune in for, the hard-hitting analysis like this.
Yes. This is
the
best time to tune in.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just sort of this clone, actually seeing this clone rebellion that's been kind of alluded to a lot, actually seeing it in action here, seeing what Rex and Echo have been up to, and getting getting to see sort of the fruits of what they're doing, that they aren't just kind of going around rescuing the clones, but they're trying to put together something. They're trying to figure out what is going on. And they come pretty close in this episode. They get a pretty solid clue. But we go from the rescue, the very Rebels-esque rescue, just without anybody falling on their face, to Mount Tantus, where we're reunited with Crosshair, and he comes face to face with Dr. Hemlock and Emery Carr. And there's kind of an interesting tension between Hemlock and Crosshair, because Hemlock is trying to do kind of the good cop, bad cop thing all by himself, I'd say. Yeah, Ben, what do you think of this dynamic between these two characters?
Yeah, I mean, I think Hemlock's a really interesting character. I'm glad we got rid of, I can't even remember his name, the guy that got taken out by Palpatine earlier in the season. Rampart. I always thought he was boring. Honestly.
So I'm like, forgot about him. Oh my god.
I'm glad he's gone. He hasn't come back. And also we have a really cool, interesting, he's got scars. He's got an interesting hair. Right. He's got a cool name. Yes. Hemlock.
What's his
he's
first
a really
name?
cool, interesting character. And the voice actor, pardon if I don't know his name off the top of my head, but giving a plus performance as it's just nuanced things. You haven't built his immunity like I have. Just really, really bad guy. And then I love Crosshair. I think this is making me appreciate Crosshair more, because he does not mess around. I love it that you have the contrasting of the clones coming in, and they're not even fighting clones. They're fighting the TK troopers. And they're still using stun blast. The clones are still we're not at least
we're not gonna
trying
kill
not to
you.
kill anybody.
Yeah.
Crosshair doesn't give a bleep. He does
Yeah,
not
right?
care. He's just like shooting TK troopers in the face. He does not care. Only really has mercy on his nurse there, who still kind of weirds me out. Like how similar she is to Omega. And I think that's maybe why Crosshair couldn't kill her, probably is because, of that little connection. But I just that whole dynamic, and it's gonna be real interesting next episode, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I had to step away, so I have no idea what you guys have been talking about.
I just talked about Hemlock.
Oh, Hemlock. Okay, nice. Yeah.
It's Royce Hemlock. How cool of a name is that? Royce Hemlock.
That's it. That's great. It sounds like the like modern day version of Sherlock Holmes. Like that's what his name reminds me of. Like just that sound.
Yeah, it's got a good name. It's got a good ring to it. It's just sort of, he's so composed in all of these situations. He never seems flustered, even when he's going up against Tarkin later in the episode. Like he's one of those villains you feel like he could actually go toe to toe with some of these more famous Imperials. If Darth Vader walked into Mount Tantus, I feel like this is a character who wouldn't back down. Like even think about like Krennic, when Krennic goes up against Vader. Krennic is not a very composed guy, and so he's sort of in awe and a little bit afraid of Vader in Rogue One. Whereas
Vader, like he's so uncomfortable.
Yeah, whereas Hemlock, I feel like, would almost be unimpressed with Vader. He'd be like, "Oh, you have a robot suit? I've developed an immunity to this poison that I've created." Like he would just not be impressed at all. But yeah, the torture scenes were quite something this week. They cut away from them, but you can tell that Crosshair's in a lot of pain in these scenes. This is the Bad Batch going to a pretty dark place, and it's cut back and forth with Omega doing her flying training, so it doesn't feel quite as dark as if they were doing this, let's say, on The Mandalorian. But like, this guy's literally just injecting Crosshair with, I don't know what, truth serum. I don't know what exactly it's supposed to be, but it's really kind of it's kind of harrowing when you sort of stop and think about it. I don't know, Hannah, what did you think of these, the methods that Hemlock is using on Crosshair, and just how they seem to be impacting our poor sharpshooter here?
Yeah, it's an interesting one with the Empire here, because even though in the past year we've gotten actually a lot of Empire stuff, we've got a lot of Empire stuff in Andor and how they function. Think about the Bix scene, the torture she went through. Like, we've gotten a lot of Imperials torturing other people, and then even in Mando, not the same time period, but the power imbalance, the working. Just side note, I still don't know who was working for who in that scene of Mandalorian. I don't know if that was I think New Republic or not New Republic.
I think we're still meant to be kind of questioning, who exactly she's working for.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, cool. But yeah, back to this scene in Bad Batch. Like, it's really interesting that we still we're getting so much Empire stuff, but it's still so fascinating how it works. Like, why is Hemlock so hellbent on like, you can kind of tell he's kind of that little bit crazy. He's a very cool crazy scientist. He's like the cool version of Dr. Vindy from the Clone Wars. He's like, like, that's how he's gotten this far, because he's got a cool haircut and a cool name. Like, that's why he's this far. But he's kind of manic. He's kind of like, yeah, I'm just gonna torture you. I just want information. Like, that's how it is. But I think it's done a really good job of furthering this concept that's heavily in Star Wars media now of cloning. It's in almost every show. The idea of cloning, the Empire's trying to clone, or something is being cloned. It's such a big concept, so it just furthers that. The pursuit of figuring this out, of whether it's to clone for good or bad, is so prevalent in the Empire and the galaxy, and they'll go to any lengths, the Empire, just showing how ruthless they are.
Yeah, it definitely does seem to be building towards, something going on Exegol out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Way beyond the Outer Rim. But yeah, also you mentioned it, like this is the third like major torture sequence in Star Wars in the last year, going back to Andor with Bix with the headphones with the screaming children.
Yes.
And then
geez.
Dr. Pershing being attached to definitely not a mind flayer. And now Crosshair just being injected with who knows what. It's they're really showing
sucks that Disney's just made this so kid friendly these days and so watered down and Disneyfied. Gosh.
It's basically Mickey Mouse and Goofy running around with lightsabers these days. That's what's going on. It's they're really just sort of showing the villainy of the Empire in a way that has always been alluded to, right? The ball droid, the interrogation droid follows Vader into Leia's cell in A New Hope, but they cut away. It's sort of like now we're not just seeing the moments leading up to the torture, we're seeing some of the torture itself, and then we're seeing the aftermath, especially on Andor.
I do have to say, when we saw the ball probe droid, ball droid, I don't know, in this
Dr.
episode, Doctor. Dr. Ball. Sure. I was like, oh yeah, that's a great nod to New Hope. That's brilliant. Love that. I thought it was really clever. But I was low key, and if you know, low key expecting that, after we had that scene, to have from a shot from the outside of the room, showing the door shut quickly, and then a pan of someone's boots walking along the walkway. I was expecting that shot to be
it's a Star Wars tradition now.
Yeah.
Right.
Gotta have that shot. Shot. And the fact that they didn't, that they did it is disrespecting the fans, and I won't stand for it. Disney
escalated quickly. Wow.
But one other moment that kind of stood out in this is when what's his face, Hemlock, is saying to Crosshair, I need you to help me find Clone Force 99. I need you to tell me how they think, how they operate, who their contacts are. And there's been a lot of talk lately about their falling out with Sid. And I've been spending all the time since I've watched the episode trying to think, does Crosshair know Sid? And I feel like the answer is no, that he hasn't had a scene with her or anything. But I'm going to think he's somehow figured it out. And so all roads lead back to Sid, I think, this season. I think
there's got to be a scene somewhere where, like, they mention here, he overhears like them talking about Ord Mantell or Sid or something, and that's gonna, because that they keep, like, I feel like we're not done with Sid, weirdly, that there's something else something else is coming with her. Just the fact that there wasn't like hey Sid, screw you, there was no scene like that. There was just like, they literally just ghosted her. They're just like, oh, we're just not returning her calls and we're hoping for the best. That's not gonna, and Fee is like, she's not a good person to like get on her bad side. That's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, there's been lots of talk about Sid in all of these episodes, including this week. Echo says to Hunter, you guys aren't still working for Sid. Like, he gets the update there. And again, just the way Hemlock says contacts, I'm like, that there was a little extra spice on that word. We're coming around to is Sid going to betray the Bad Batch? And I feel like that's gonna factor into probably part 1 of the finale next week.
I think we may be coming up on a big cliffhanger with this season, potentially.
Actually, on that, why the hell doesn't they not just do a really long episode for the finale? Like, why break next week up into the 2 episodes?
That is a good question.
That weird?
Yeah, it is. It's odd.
Like Aftermath was such a good little little movie almost. Do that again. Do that for every Rebels did it.
Wow,
several
that's
times. They would just do these
but
either opener or finale.
But Rebels would split them up. They would be the Siege of Lothal Part 1 and Part 2. They'd just play them back to back on Disney
because it was on network TV and they only
Yeah.
had certain time slots. They could make a 5-hour long episode of Bad Batch if they wanted to, and no one would bat an eye.
It's true.
Disney
It's
Plus.
true. It is true.
Yeah, it's super weird.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
The only reason you would do that is if it was like part 1 of the finale this week and then the following week. Like, there's no reason for whatever.
Yeah.
There's so many tiny things I get so triggered about this stuff.
And then we're like, oh my god, I have to watch an episode, then I have to go back to Disney Plus and select another episode to watch it. Oh, this is so hard.
It's like just that. It's like a little speed bump in the middle there. It's like, oh, hang on, we had this discussion. If we call it different things, do you call it a speed hump or a speed bump?
Bump.
Okay. Sometimes
occasionally hump, but mostly bump.
Bump. Okay. All right.
I'm too childish to say speed hump over and over again.
That's low hanging fruit.
Watch the speed hump.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the speed
hell was I saying? What was he saying?
I don't know. But no, that is a good point. Like, there should be a way to just play the 2 episodes back to back as one episode rather than.
Why isn't there a play all option on Disney Plus?
Putting credits in between them? I get that. I agree with that. I think back to the premiere of this season. Like, that is just one long episode that they cut they put credits in the middle of.
Yeah.
There was no real need to split that up. The 2-parter in the middle of the season, I felt like that was more 2 episodes that aired on the same day rather than I felt like there was a sort of a natural rise and fall to the first part and then another rise and fall to the second part.
Correct. Yeah.
And who knows what next week will look like, whether it'll feel like a long episode or whether it'll have that kind of, 2 episodes that just happen to come out on the same day feeling. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they go with why it does feel very like old school thinking to just go, well, we need to do 16 episodes. So we'll do basically episode 50 in part 1 and episode 50 in part 2 as episode 15 and 16 instead. It's odd. Odd is the word I would use. And let's talk about the stuff on Coruscant. I was a little bit that was the perhaps the most surprising shot in the episode was the establishing shot of Coruscant. I wasn't expecting to go back there.
Oh, not this planet again.
At all.
So much Coruscant lately.
Yeah, I'm waiting for all the
becoming
people
the new Tatooine. You know what I'm saying?
I was gonna say I was waiting for all the people who complained so much about how much Tatooine has been in Star Wars to start complaining about Coruscant. I feel like we're like one more Coruscant appearance in like the Acolyte away from that. I feel like
because it was an emotional roller coaster with Tatooine because it was just like for so long it's like, oh, desert planet, no, it's Jakku. Oh no, it's desert planet, no, it's Pasana. Like, it was this whole thing. Everyone was wanting Tatooine. Now it's just like, oh my god, more Tatooine, and we're getting there with Coruscant. It's in everything. It's in everything.
It's where the clones have their meeting and Chuchi's
they go to
there.
the garage.
In the garage, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So, wow.
Yeah.
Totally
it is admittedly it's the least Coruscant part of Coruscant where they're just hanging out in somebody's garage. This rebellion, this clone rebellion has the same energy as like a bunch of high school kids with a band. They're like, yeah, we're just hanging out.
It does, doesn't it? Oh my god.
Hanging out in Trace's garage.
It's odd that their base of operations for this rebellion is literally in the Imperial capital. Like that's
Hey, it's right under their nose where they would never think to look because it'd be too ridiculous to do. Nobody's that crazy. And yet, they have these contacts and we are seeing kind of this, we've been seeing over the course of the series, this, the pieces of this rebellion coming together with all these characters from Clone Wars, whether it's Chuchi or the Martez sisters, all the various clones. And, we're getting, in this episode, we get a little bit more of a sense of what's going on, what they're planning, what they're doing. And we learn from Hauser that, a lot of the clone troopers that have been captured, that have been sort of, that have gone, that have, gotten their head straight and realized what they were doing was wrong, but then got themselves arrested. They're being taken off world and never coming back. And I think we see some of them probably in the opening sequence on Mount Tantus, where Crosshair is doing that terrible walk through the hallways and just seeing all the clone troopers suffering in their cells. But what did we think of this sequence in the garage, and just sort of seeing this little small rebellion start to come together? Whoever wants to take this can grab it.
I like that Chi-Chi's back, and we've got more of her, and just this kind of forming this thing that, like, I think is going to be a part of the show. And I'm still very confused as to where this is actually going. I think obviously it can't, like, what is the end game for the clones? I think we're definitely heading to Mount Tantus, and all the clones are being taken to Mount Tantus. So, what's actually going to be happening there, and what kind of big breakout scene are we going to be treated to? Also, I never thought we'd actually see Hauser again. I'm so happy he's back, Mr. Perfect Hair.
Yeah, he had the worst hair on that one Imperial, and then you get Hauser with his this glorious glorious hair.
You should get that haircut, Ben.
By the way, there's
just shave off the sides.
Like gel it up. You should like gel it up like that. That'd be great.
After you've done your Lonnie cosplay, and there was somebody else you were supposed to do first. Then
that was the best part of Andor. Finding there's a character that looks eerily like Ben.
That was the highlight, huh? Actually,
highlight.
Speaking of Andor connections, there's a clone trooper in this episode named Nemec.
What?
Yeah.
What?
True. Yeah, there's a clone trooper named
Hang
Nemec.
Hang on a damn second.
It's time for Dom's Connection Corner. There's not really a connection here. It's just they use that name twice. And if you go to Wikipedia, at the top of the article, it says, "This is the article about the clone trooper. You may be looking for the Aldhani heist team member." So there you go.
Wow.
Now I gotta look up where the name like Nemec came from, like where that word all of a sudden is popular in Star Wars.
Yeah. So we move away from the garage, from this little meeting of the minds on Coruscant, and Echo says he's got a connection who can crack the information, get through the encryption. Obviously, we all know who he's talking about. He's going to see Echo, he's going to see Tech.
He's talking about Ben.
He's talking about Ben
in the corner.
Yeah, in the corner.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's his connection.
What? Hello? Is there an echo in here?
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff.
That was even better. The fact that you were watching the episode on your phone. That was the phone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hello. Oh, I'm gonna get copyright. Never mind.
So good.
Ben's like, I need to remember this episode better. I've forgotten everything that's going on.
I'm looking for Nemec. Okay, it just blow my mind.
Nemec. Oh man.
Yeah. I do think though. I think I had speculated previously the clones were going to try and kill Palpatine. I think that's probably not where this is going. I think a big rescue mission to Mount Tantus, not just to get Crosshair out of there, but to get all the troopers that are being held there out. That feels appropriate for this season and for how things have been going and what we've been building up to.
Also, kind of a juxtaposition to where the Empire and Rebellion will be in 20 years. I was just like, the Empire is hiding in a secret base, and the Rebels are trying to find it and destroy it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of they've played the Uno reverse card on A New Hope. There we go. Let's talk about Crosshair and his escape attempt. Ben, you mentioned this earlier. Probably the coolest moment in the episode is when the trooper looks up at Crosshair, and Crosshair's has got his gun pointed at him. That was definitely the moment that made me sort of sit up and go, wow. And he takes out those couple of troopers, but he only stuns Emery Carr. He doesn't kill her. Hannah, I'll throw this to you. What did you make of that moment, of that choice from Crosshair to not kill the doctor?
I don't know. To be honest, just honestly, I don't know. I think, well, because really this is his turning point. Well, what's this episode called? Tipping Point?
Tipping point, yeah.
Points.
Yeah, well, I think that's why it's called that. I think this is his, I would call it turning point. But tipping point, fair, same thing. He's it's very subtle, but it is his tipping point. And I think it wasn't in that it's nothing to do with his connection to that doctor, but it was just like, I don't know what it was. I don't know why he didn't kill her, but I think maybe he thought he could have convinced her to help him or something like that. I do think there's some sort of connection with, maybe he has this like, if we want to get critical, like this deep remorse about Camino. And he kind of felt that connection of like, maybe it is, the accent, the sound, and he can tell that this is a Kaminoan researcher based person. And maybe he had a connection to that. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one of why he didn't kill her.
Yeah, because he takes out those two troopers, and then he goes through the hallway, it's taking out troopers. But she's the one that he switches over to stun for. It's almost like, he's seeing her possibly as a potential ally down the line, or he sort of sees her as that she's not necessarily, she's working for the Empire, but maybe she's not a true believer the way the troopers are, the way Hemlock is. She is the one person who's being nice to him and trying to who actually seems like she might have his best interests in mind. She unhooks his head from the torture board that he's tied down to. She does seem to be, among all those awful scientists and all those awful troopers, the one person with a little bit of a conscience.
And the one person in a long time that has called him Crosshair. I don't know if there's any Imperial that has. I might be wrong with that, but I feel like this is the first like Imperial person to actually call him Crosshair.
That's true. Yeah, they just usually call him by his number, and she, calls him by his name. And we always talk about the clones and their humanity, and how all through the Clone Wars they're sort of granted this chance to be themselves and be who they want to be. And then Order 66 comes along and takes it away from them. And the Empire goes right back to seeing them as numbers. They're not the people that the Jedi saw them as. And yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. We'll see where this winds up. I don't know. I have a bad feeling about the fate of poor Emery Carr. I feel like she's bound to sacrifice herself or get in between Hemlock and the Bad Batch, and things just won't go well for her. But I hope to be proven wrong.
I just have a bit of an update on the Nemec situation.
Yes.
Oh, good,
So,
good.
Karis Nemec from Andor is spelled Nemik. The clone trooper is spelled Nemec, for the record.
Okay.
Well.
This is very vital.
Says a lot.
This changes everything. It just turns the whole page. It opens up a whole new conspiracy theory, and at the center of it, one of the Nemecs is Uncle Harlow, and that's where all of this is going. Uncle Harlow. One of them's related to Uncle Harlow, and the other one's related to Anto Krieger. And that's
Krieger.
how we've got there. And they're all gonna risk it all for something real. Okay, and then we have, but to stick with sort of Crosshair's attempted escape, I love this whole sequence of him sort of stumbling through the hallways, and you can tell he's not all there because he misses a couple of shots. He misses a few times.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah, we never see him miss, except in this sequence. And then he does actually get a call out to the Bad Batch. This is their first communication since Camino, and it's been a fascinating arc for Crosshair to watch where he's gone, from feeling abandoned by the Bad Batch, by the rest of the Bad Batch, to now we see just how deep that connection really runs and how burned Crosshair feels by the Empire, not just literally with the side of his head. Like, he's realized, I think, what he lost in the Bad Batch when he chose to stay with the Empire, and he's realized, what the Empire actually thinks of him, and I don't think he wants anybody else to fall to have that fate, to have that same fate as him, and it was really kind of a beautiful, kind of powerful moment of him, in those last moments, getting that message out, and actually, hopefully, doing right by the other members of Clone Force 99. I suppose there's a chance it was all a trap, but the way the sequence plays out, I don't think that's likely in the slightest.
I do like that at least one person on the batch is like, this could just be a trap. That he could literally be just trying to draw us out because he's done that before.
Mm.
The thing with the toxin, after that, I was kind of thinking that Hemlock was going to say this is a toxin that only works on clones.
I was thinking the same thing.
Ah.
Yeah. I liked him having immunity to it. That's cool. But I thought this guy's a mad scientist. He would come up with something that only works on clones.
He's the cool Dr. Vindy. I did like in this sequence also when he says Plan 88, barely gets that Plan 88. And then there's something, I think that's when the door opens or something happens, the gas starts. And then he tries to get out the line. It's either they're trying to find or like they're coming to get Omega, and then he can't finish Omega, but he just says that, and you can tell he's about to start Omega, and then he collapses, and it's like, I don't know. I just found that so like that was the proof that like, okay, he's turned. Like he wants to, like, before he's like, when Hemlock was like, we need like something about your batch, and then he's like the kid, but then when like this minute later in this scene when he's like he's coming to get Omega, like I didn't fully say Omega, but just the way he's like, I don't know, just a bit more connective and humanity to it, that like Crosshair still has deep down in his cold heart some care about them and about Omega.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to see it, because Omega was always nice to him. That was the thing. Going back to the very first episode, she has that moment with him where she says, I know what you're about to do. I know what you're going to do, and it's not your fault. Like, she's always been there. And then in the finale, again, she says to him, they're still your brothers. We're still all family. Like, just what's happened between us, it's tragic. It sucks, but ultimately we can make this right. I think she's always believed that. Whether the rest of the Bad Batch has believed that, I don't know. But I think, at her core, Omega thinks this could still be all the Bad Batch together again.
And I mean, this is the beginning. This is like true redemption. We've talked about redemption before in Star Wars, of like, okay, people, a lot of times redemption we've known is person does real bad things for a really, really long time, and then they do one good thing and they die. That's redemption in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I like that Crosshair is still alive, and also he's suffering. This is kind of checking off the list.
Ben wants to see him suffer. That's what Ben likes to see in Star Wars. Ben's
I do.
Full Imperial.
Yes,
he wants them being tortured.
Because this is all mythological, okay? Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker did a lot of really bad things, and guess what? He paid dearly for it. He lost everything. That was part of his journey because he made a selfish choice. He made many selfish choices. And Crosshair is suffering from this now too. And literally suffering at the hands of and doing so, because if Crosshair really was heartless, like, he would just give them up and say, oh yeah, here's everything I know. He's clearly holding back, and he risks his life to, essentially, we can assume he basically just saved their lives because he just gave them a heads
risked it all for something real.
Exactly.
Where's Luther?
Andor makes sense now. I like Andor now.
It all comes back to Luthen. He is the linchpin for everything in Star Wars. Everybody's always risking it all for something real.
Incredible.
Amazing.
I don't know how we do it. I don't know how we do that.
There's people still listening to this and watching this.
Yeah.
Ben's like, I don't understand what's going on.
The world doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So we finally, more than halfway through the episode, we finally actually get to Pabu, and we actually get to the rest of the Bad Batch, the characters we've been following for the most part through this season. And, we see, the Bad Batch kind of living their best life. Wrecker is fishing and rebuilding stuff. He seems so happy. Omega and Tech are doing flying lessons, which was just amazing. It was, I loved that. I usually don't like Tech comedy, but I loved this whole back and forth between the two of them where he's like just barely hanging on. She's like, oh, I didn't set off the proximity sensors. He's like, that's because they fritzed out after last they went off too many times last time.
That was a good line, wasn't it?
And when she says, it's the Tech turn, he's like, oh, well, it's not what it's called, but I kind of like it. Like, I liked that whole dynamic, that back and forth that they've had really since their heart to heart in the mines, not the mines of Mandalore, the mines of the planet of Benny and the communists. But
Benny and the communists.
Great song, classic song.
Yeah, classic.
And so that whole sequence was really fun. So it seems like everybody's, living their best life, except Hunter, who is just always has to be the ultimate wet blanket. All through the series, he's been trying to find a place for the Bad Batch to live out, to live their lives and let Omega grow up and everything. And he's finally found it. And there he is having a conversation with Shep. And Shep's like, so I can't convince you to stay. I'm like, Hunter, this is what you wanted. This is what you've wanted all season. This is what you've been saying since episode 1. And you're going to walk away from it? Dude, come on.
So true. Actually, that's a really good point. That was his whole character point. And then now he's like, we're soldiers. We can't stay still. It's like, what?
It's like, dude. Of course, then Echo shows up, and now they can't stay still because, now there's real problems.
There's an Echo in here.
Yeah. What did we think of the reunion between, mainly Echo and Omega, but also just Echo and the rest of the Bad Batch a couple weeks after the departure, after the split? What do we think? Whoever wants to take
nice.
it.
Yeah. It's nice.
Nice. Good.
Nice.
Hard-hitting analysis. That's what we
That's what we bring you.
That's what we bring
most in-depth conversations about every moment of Star Wars.
It was nice. Yeah, I liked it. It was nice. Yeah. Now, we do get a conversation between Hemlock and Tarkin. And it's funny. You guys were bringing up Rebels earlier. I thought of Rebels during this scene with Tarkin, and I always think about for the longest time, anything that took place in this era, whenever Tarkin came on screen, thought about the Death Star. All paths lead to the Death Star, and this is an instance where it isn't. I don't think it does. I don't think there's anything going on Tantus that will really lead to the planet killer. And I just sort of was thinking about Tarkin, like this guy just basically spends his entire life overseeing the worst, all these evil plans going on in the galaxy. It's like, okay, first I've got a call about the planet killer weapon. Then I've got a call about the cloning program that tortures old clones so that we can keep the Emperor alive forever and ever. Amen. Then lunch. And then I don't know what he's going to do in the afternoon, but it's going to be terrible too.
He's a busy guy. Yeah. He's got a big schedule of being like an awful person ahead of him.
Yeah.
Did you get, I got Rogue One vibes here though, of like Hemlock doing all the hard yards and then being like, by the way, I did this thing. And Tarkin's like, I'm like present it at the summit, and then I'm gonna claim all the credit for doing all this stuff. Like that's my vibe I got from that kind of interaction there. I was like, oh, that's very Krennic-y. Krennic Vader more like. Oh no, sorry, Krennic Tarkin. What the hell am I thinking of? Yeah.
We stand here amidst my accomplishments. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
one.
I kind and that's something else of like that this new layer that's been added to Tarkin's character over the years, that we thought he was like the mastermind behind everything, but really he was just the guy that told the masterminds what to do and then killed them off and took all the credit. So I fully expect Tarkin to try and off Dr. Hemlock at some point and be like, yes, all of this cloning stuff, Emperor Palpatine, it was all me. I did it alone. There was no help. Here is how you will one day be reborn to bring about the final order or something. I don't know.
Wow, you really got that planned out. Jeez.
Yeah, he's got it all together. But yeah, it's a good back and forth between two villains that are, sort of known for keeping their cool, for not, for being kind of the calmest person in the room, no matter what's going on. And it's a nice sort of matchup where you have two very, I think obviously Tarkin has the kind of advantage. He's got more stature. He's the one in charge, but I don't think he's going to be able to manipulate Dr. Hemlock the way he did, anybody on Lothal or even Director Krennic. I think this is a different style of showdown between Imperials.
Good old Royce and Wilhuff.
Yeah.
Royce, such a great name.
And then and all of this, of course, this whole season has been leading to the meeting. There's going to be a meeting or a summit that takes place.
That is kind of fun. I
like that. I saw the episode title, and I probably one of the 1,000 people that are like, "Oh, it's the summit of Mount Tantus," blah blah, blah. And then they're like, "Oh," and then and then you have to realize there's someone in universe, in the Imperial Navy, Army, whatever, that thinks they're really funny, hosting a meeting called the Summit inside a giant mountain.
Yeah,
they have to have it at the top, right? They have to have the meeting at the top of the mountain, at the summit of it, right? That has to happen.
Of course, yeah. You can't have the summit at the base. No, that would be
yes. We were having a conference. No, a meeting. No. I got it. It's a summit.
It's gonna be called Galactic Empire Celebration, and everybody's gonna have badges. They're gonna do panels, and it'll be basically be Comic-Con. Yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see.
I'm trying to think of all the panels that could be happening.
I mean, it'd be
Death Star 2 reveal, like trailer reveal.
Tarkin's on stage. He's like, "Who's excited about the Death Star?"
Yeah.
The crowd's going wild. He's like, "I can't hear you." They're still going.
Who would
wild.
host
He's like,
it?
"Oh, it
Who
would
be the
definitely be hosted by it would be Admiral Mahdi. It'd be like, this battle station is now the ultimate power in the universe. This convention is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
I'm also thinking of just like Oppression 101, like as a panel. How to oppress a populace.
And you'd have like a panelist like Deidre Miro, who would just be there and like say one word. be like having Adam Driver on your Comic-Con panel. They'd be like, "So, Lieutenant Miro, what do you think of how best to torture people? Play them sounds of children screaming." And everybody, any other thoughts?
Oh,
no. And everybody like, "Yeah, good thought." Oh my goodness,
man. You know what the good thing is? That everyone would be in cosplay attending. So everyone's already in their outfit.
And I'm serious now. I'm serious. Tweet at us. Tell us about your panel for Empire Celebration. I want to hear it.
What's your Empire Celebration?
Amazing. So the rest of the episode is kind of I know. All right. The rest of the episode is kind of just putting all the pieces in place. I think for next week, the Bad Batch find out about Crosshair, and it's kind of left up in the air what exactly they're going to do. As we talked about, somebody says, "Oh, it could be a trap. What should we do?" And I was just waiting for Hunter to go, "Next move, spring the trap." And
yes,
we did not.
Yes.
It's that exact same Mon Cal from Mandalorian. He just like comes from. They just cut to him. He's just like staring at the camera.
Camera. It's like, stop saying trap around me. I get it. It's a meme, but stop it.
What's the other episode of the summit called? What's the other one?
I think it's called Plan 99. Yeah, Plan
Or should it be
90.
Plan 88?
Well,
why is it
maybe
Plan 99?
I mean, they start with 88, doesn't work, so they have to try 11 other ones until they get to Plan 99. That's the episode, is them trying 11 different plans until one finally
Until
works.
99 works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Or
great.
they cloned Clone 99. An evil version of clones.
Oh, why'd you have to make an evil version of 99?
Because it's the Empire.
Why do you have to make him evil?
But if they cloned him, he would just be another clone. That's the point.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Wow.
good stuff. But yeah, basically the last couple of scenes just putting everything into place for the finale. Bad Batch seemed like they're gonna go save Crosshair. Hemlock is gonna put the real pressure on Crosshair until he gets him to break, and presumably get him to spill the beans about Sid, and then all things, as we said, all roads lead to Sid next week. All right. Is it time, Ben? Is it time? Are you ready? Have you watched the episode again?
That's all, folks, for tonight.
I think you know it's time. You can't escape it. It's everybody's favorite part of the show. It's time once again for Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. So Ben, I'm not gonna put a clock on you.
You better not.
But if the segment starts to go too long, I won't be afraid to play you out like it's the Oscars.
Oh, I wish.
I'm just gonna pull a Michelle Yeoh and go, shut up! Let me do my segment. Let me say my things.
All right,
ready.
Get started.
Educate me, Ben.
For your information, you've already whittled away at my notes. Okay, so there's really not much left.
Whittled.
I've already talked about the Palpatine lightning teeth. So there's not much left after that. I got to go with the obvious ones. I think this is the first Gazanti class freighter we've seen in this show. Obviously, they're big in Rebels, which they showed up in Mandalorian. Pretty cool to see them here. And also another hint at like we're heading into this new era, and we're seeing. The idea of like I love that. It's not quite the Empire original trilogy, but you have V-Wings that are kind of like TIE fighters. You have Venators, which are kind of like Star Destroyers. And you have the Gazantis, which are kind of like the, what we kind of see in towards the original trilogy. So pretty cool. Another Rebels tie-in is one of the clones had the data spike. Remember that thing that they used in, I think it was one of the last episodes, season one of like, I always like that concept of just like this thing that kind of worms its way into the console and you can extract information. Pretty cool.
It's basically a glorified USB drive. It's basically what it is.
Except you can't put it in the wrong way.
Or maybe that's just how talented Echo is. He gets it right every time.
If anyone would, he would. I love the little unfinished hint of the Imperial March right during that space battle. That was really good, and I just love they're holding back. Kinders are holding back, but they know, it's there, it's back there. And finally, this is it. One of the Imperials, I think it was the Omega lookalike, mentions Balmora. I can't remember what it referenced to, but it was obviously Balmora is from the EU. I think going back to Knights of the Republic or something like that. Also in the Clone Wars, that little thing that Anakin figures out to get in front of the Malevolence is called Balmora Run. So interesting little catch there.
I thought when he said that it was a Willow reference, and they were talking about Bav Morda, which is the queen in Willow, the evil queen. But I then realized, no, you're right. I heard it wrong. And
is there any more hints in the Willow series? I haven't seen it yet. Is there any more hints in that show that it actually is? I know I haven't seen the movie yet. That's my problem.
Are you upset about Willow being cancelled, Tom?
It's not really canceled though.
Well, this is the thing. Since we're here, let's talk about Willow. It's all in the connection corner. I'm disappointed that it's not being fast tracked to season 2 the way I would have hoped, because I did really like the first season. I liked it a lot, and I was hoping for more, and I thought it ended in a way that, I mean, it basically did a post-credit scene before the credits that really sort of teased where they want to go with the show, and it seemed really exciting and really interesting and in a way that built on what they were doing in season 1. So I was really hoping that there would be a season 2, like if not next year, then the year after that. But then the news came down that first they were saying it was canceled, and then John Kasdan said, no, it's not canceled. It's just not going ahead immediately. So we had to let the cast out of their contracts so that they could go and do other work, which is fair enough. You know, I guess that's the right thing to do. But I am a little bit, you know, John Kasdan's been talking a lot about Solo 2 for 4, 5, 6 years now. You know, he says a lot of things, and I just kind of think like that might be wishful thinking. And if they do get to make season 2, it likely won't be what they were planning to do after season 1, because one of these cast members is going to hit it big somewhere, and they're going to be too famous to come back for anything more than a guest appearance. And so that's going to change the dynamic of the show. Whether I think either really it's going to be either Aaron Kellyman or Tony Revolori. One of those two just feels like they're just on the cusp of, you know, really becoming a big star and getting like a, you know, I guess they've both been in Marvel shows and stuff, but like being the lead in one of those things where, you know, that's going to eat up their schedule, and they're only probably, if they come back to do Willow at all, it'll be like a guest appearance. So I remain optimistic about the future, because I'd like to see more of that show, because I did really enjoy it, but I'm not like, I am disappointed. I'm disappointed that it's not, that they're not announcing season 2 at Celebration. That was what I was hoping for, was that they would, the one bit of non-Star Wars news I would accept at the Lucasfilm Showcase this year would be the same thing I was most annoyed by at the Lucasfilm Showcase last year, which was Willow talk.
The tables have turned.
Exactly.
But back to my original question though, is there any more hints in that show that it's set in the Star Wars universe, which has been a strong theory for years and years and years?
So, I mean, there's nothing like really in your face about it.
There's no lightsabers.
No, but there is a scene where Willow is describing the magic that exists in the world, in that world, and it sounds like he's describing the Force. Like it fully could, well, you change it to, you put him in Jedi robes instead of wizard robes. He could fully be talking about the Force, because like
it's amazing that you have all these references. Like Indiana Jones and Star Wars have always traded references. They're like, clearly there's something going on there. Then you have like E.T. is in both Star Wars and E.T. Yoda is an E.T. So there's a connection there. E.T. exists in the Star Wars universe. So like and I guess, I don't know, could you just, is Weasel just, is he Wicket, or wait, is he
Willow?
He's Willow.
It's just Willow. Yeah.
One of the W's.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So here's the exact quote. Like, tell me this is not the Force. This is what they're talking about, the bloodstream of the universe. And this is what Willow says. He says, there's an energy that flows through all living things. That energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only transformed. What we call magic is the art of transforming that energy from one form to another. The Force is what gives the Jedi his powers. It surrounds us, it binds us, and, you know.
That's a ballsy line from John Kasdan, to like energy that flows through all living things. Like, you're just quoting Star Wars here, dude.
It's an energy field created by all living things.
Yeah,
it surrounds us, and penetrates us, and binds the galaxy together. Yeah. So, anyways, there's your Willow talk, everybody, and
Ben's Willow Corner.
Yeah, well,
Willow Corner with Ben.
Well, and
I haven't seen Willow yet. Yay!
That will bring to an end another very rapid fire edition of Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection.
My question was really a yes or no question.
How's it going,
There's no such.
everybody?
This is a podcast. There's no such thing as a yes or no question. No such thing.
Oh, fine.
All right. Let's wind things down. Let's wrap things up, and we'll go around the table one last time. Give some final thoughts and scores out of 10 for this episode. Hannah, kick us off. Final thoughts.
Yeah.
4 out of 10 for Tipping Point.
As much as I really enjoyed this episode, I really enjoyed this tone. I really enjoyed the pacing, the characters we got. It really highlights for me personally how much of this season I have not liked. And because why the hell haven't we got more of this throughout the season? Like, we've barely got any Crosshair, and he's like the climax of the season. Like, how does that work? More Echo. Like, Echo's been away for quite a few episodes now, building stuff with Chuchi and working with Gregor and Rex and doing all these cool things. Why haven't we seen that? This is, to me, the Bad Batch is a Bad Batch. Yes, Bad Batch centric story, but also a clone centric story. Hang on, I can feel a sneeze coming in this really big rain.
Oh,
I think I'm okay.
Power through it. Power through it.
Okay. It's meant to be quite clone centric, and I just haven't felt that all season. I felt it in this episode, and I felt so satisfied with this episode. And nothing really massive happened. Cool scenes with Crosshair and a bit of an action scene at the start, but nothing major happened. But I just enjoy this episode so much more than the rest of the season. All the Benny stuff and the mining stuff and the rocket
all
flying,
iconic. All iconic.
I'm just so like, oh man, we could have gotten episode after episode of building this storyline. These 3 different storylines: the Bad Batch, where Echo's at, and where Crosshair's at, the whole season. And I'm just so disappointed that hasn't been the focal point of the series. So great episode. great episode. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10 from Hannah. Ben, over to you. Final thoughts, score out of 10.
Yeah, Hannah, you're making a lot of good points here. I think we're on the same wavelength again. I want to see the Rex and Echo show. I want to see what they've been doing, because it's clearly way more exciting than anything the Bad Batch has been doing lately. I'm just saying. But yes, okay. I don't want to be negative here. I want to say this episode was great. This is the biggest backhanded compliment I can put against the show. Is the fact that this episode was great. It was great, better than a lot of other episodes this season. I want more of it. And it really was, like, truly, this is a fantastic episode with some great action, some great intrigue, great moments with Crosshair. I think he's still one of the most interesting characters in the entire show, giving him proper at least a start of a redemption arc, and just the promise of, like, all these characters hopefully seemingly in the next 2 episodes are going to be back together, and there's going to be some action and craziness, and just having some great villains to hang over our heroes is just great. So I think, I don't know, this is probably, I give this 9.5 out of 10.
5 out of 10 from Ben. Oh man, what a week! What a strange week. Because the backhanded compliments are strong with this one. I've loved this season. I've been on board with what they've been doing all the way through. And,
we know.
Yeah. and this, it felt like a continuation of it to me. It really did. I really, really enjoyed it. I all the stuff that we talked about with Crosshair and seeing all the pieces come into place. This was an example to me of a really, really good table setting episode, because they were just putting all the pieces in place for the finale next week with the next 2 episodes. So I really did enjoy it. but I think this is a first for this season, or at least a first since maybe the first episode. But I'm gonna give it the lowest score of the crew, and just give it an 8 out of 10. An 8 out of 10. It's an 8 out of 10. What do you want for? It's an 8 out. That's a good score.
I think I'm quitting the show.
That's a good. I thought it was going to be lower, to be honest.
It's a good
Is that
score.
the lowest score you've given an episode?
No, I think I gave the premiere a pretty harsh score, or I might have given.
That's fair.
Maybe it wasn't harsh. Maybe it's just lower than the rest of the season.
So hang on. The only other episode that is lower than this is the premiere.
Yes. No, sorry. The tech racing episode. I gave. I'm looking at my spreadsheet here. I gave the premiere and the tech racing episode. I gave them both 7s. And this one I'm giving a strong 8. A strong 8.
Pabu ranked higher than.
What did I give Pabu? I gave Pabu a 9. Yeah, yeah.
I love that. That's jeez, man. All right.
Yeah, all right. I am nothing if not inconsistent. Hey, this is a whole 3 points higher than I gave the Mandalorian this week. So you know what? That's how
what
much.
Did you rank the Mandalorian this week?
Gave it a 5. Gave it a 5.
Yeah, I forgot. I wasn't there for the ranking that last night, so that's
gave it a
wild.
5. Yep. I did. I laid it out like this, and Chris took issue with my math. So you guys can tell me if this is bad math or not. I broke the episode into 2 halves. The Coruscant half and the Mandalorians half. Coruscant half, much like this week, 8 out of 10. Good, solid, no real issues with it. Really enjoyed it. Thought it was great.
Wow.
The Mandalorian portion of the episode, I gave it 2 out of 10. So I then halved those scores. So the Mandalorian half became a 1 out of 5, and the Coruscant half became a 4 out of 5, and then we just added them together and it became 5 out of 10. So it became that's how but yeah,
that's insane,
man. I really didn't like all the Mandalorian stuff
yeah,
last week.
You know,
I like there were 2 things about it I liked. I liked Grogu in a paintball fight, and the Bo-Katan moment at the end with the getting the new pauldron. But the rest of it, like, I never want to see it again.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. We should have seen this coming. It's like Bad Batch is just like the writers and you are just like on the same wavelength clearly.
Yeah.
And then like the whole theme of Mandalorian season 3 is there's a monster in every episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that is funny.
Like,
that is
done
with
that.
And it's like Filoni's like he's good. Like I know this guy on this podcast. He's really gonna hate it. He hates monsters. He hates creatures in Star Wars. You're gonna love it.
It's 3 out of 4 episodes have basically been there's a monster we must fight.
They're literally this is all a theme to leading up to the Mythosaur showing up. Okay, so get used to it.
I know. I'm hoping that they're going to subvert expectations. And when they get to the Mythosaur's just going to be like, oh, what? You want to go for a ride? Yeah, that sounds like fun. Come on, everybody. It's going to be a grand old time. And they don't have to fight it or kill it. It'll just be like a happy-go-lucky, everybody sing Kumbaya.
They're gonna
together.
I swear to God, they're gonna find out that like there's a creature like Tremors wise, like living under Navarro, and it's gonna be like a big thing on Navarro. Like just wait and see.
Oh yeah, no. This is what we said at the end of the show last night. I think Chris had this pitch of episode 10 is going to be Zillo Beast versus Mythosaur on Coruscant.
Yes. Oh, I love it. That's it. That's where we're going.
That's it. That's what we got.
I want stuff.
Yeah. So 8 out of 10 for me. I think that's a fair, reasonable score. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
To quickly in the chat, Tony Peterson says, I've been missing the live show, so I have some scores. If y'all are going to keep track of audience's scores still, that I've fallen off the wayside of that a little bit, but we appreciate you sending them in nonetheless. The Outpost gets 10 out of 10. Pabu gets 8 out of 10. And Tipping Point gets 9 out of 10. Brooke agrees with me, gives the episode 8 out of 10. Tim, Tim with 1 M, not to be confused with Timima, agrees with Hannah,
yes.
gives it a 9 out of 10. And Matthew Hardy agrees with Brooke and I with the 8 out of 10. Nobody's on board with Ben or Chris. Nobody's dropping the 9.5 or the 10 out of 10 for this one. That's just you two crazies. You can't see the brilliance of Benny and the Communists, but you give this one a near perfect score.
What did I rate that one? Was that a 5 or 6?
What was that? What episode was that? I don't have the episode titles here. I just have the episode numbers. It was like
it would have been like 3 episodes ago or something.
Yeah. Okay. The Outpost. Okay. The Outpost was 12. And that's what everybody gave 8, 10, 11. Actually, I don't have the score. I don't think I have the scores for
the Benny one.
The Benny one. What's that was called?
How dare you?
No, Metamorphosis. I do have. I don't have the scores on the spreadsheet for the Zillow Beast one. For Retrieval, which is the Benny episode, episode 10. Ben, you gave that an 8. Chris gave it a 9. I gave it a 10, and Hannah, you gave it a 6.5.
That's like generous. I'm like surprised I gave it that. Jeez. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like when we went through the Andor scores, and you're like, those are all of my scores are way too high.
Way too positive. Like, jeez.
Oh man, well, we'll go through all the scores after the season, and we'll see where we wound up. But yeah, good stuff. We'll begin. We'll leave things here and begin to wrap things up for this week. Thank you everybody for listening. We will be back on Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to tune in live, I think we're talking about Mandalorian, but we might switch it up because it's the Bad Batch finale week. So maybe we'll switch things up. So be on the lookout. We'll make announcements about that. But either way, we'll discuss one of those shows on Thursday and then the other one on Friday. I think we are definitely doing Friday next week because on Saturday I get on an airplane and fly to London for a celebration of sorts.
How freaky is that?
So yeah, it's just around the corner. So we'll have lots of great content for you next week. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you check out the interview with Graham Hancock that I did about Celebration London and all the fun that'll be going on there, and also some Lego Star Wars. That'll be coming out soon. As soon as somebody gets me a thumbnail, it'll be posted. But if you can't wait,
working on it.
But if you can't wait, it's in the audio edition of the podcast, which the audio version of the podcast last week or last night as we record this wound up being 3 hours and 6 minutes long. So just what you need after a 3-hour podcast is more content. And that's what we will provide here on the Star Wars Underworld all the time. And to make sure you never miss any of that obscene amount of content that we produce, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. You punch the subscribe button and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. Ben, thank you for being on as always.
Oh, this is a pleasure as always, and I will go ahead and shout out the Discord game night because it's literally happening right this second, and I am missing it. So I might actually jump over there right as we end. And if you're listening live, feel free to join me. But and we do that, and can't wait for. It's gonna be wild next week. We got more content. We're gonna have like 2 hours for the content. Star Wars content.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, of the episode of Mandalorian, and
because the episode is supposed to be like 46 minutes long, I think I heard.
Okay. So we're sort of splitting the difference of the last two, the 30 minutes and the 55.
And then the next episode will be 2 minutes long.
Yes, it'll be like a micro episode. It'll be like the Grogu and the Dust Bunnies thing that they did. But yeah,
I never watched that. I refuse to watch that.
It's cute. It's just kind of.
Well, it's not you didn't watch it, is you refuse to watch it. That's very aggressive.
Yeah, well, true.
Is there a reason it's drawn such ire from you? Let's unpack this. We still got time in the show.
Another hour of the show.
Hannah's Therapy Corner.
No, I refuse. No reason.
Okay, yeah.
Just refuse. Like blanket refusal.
Just straight petulance. That's all. That's what it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
Good.
Can't argue with that.
Fair enough.
Tune into the Raeside for more positivity and fun. For all things Star Wars.
The Raeside, a positive place for Star Wars, unless you want to talk about Grogu and the Dust Bunnies. Yeah. In which case, get off her lawn. Anna, thank you for being on as always. Do you want to, plug all the places people can listen to you talk about the stuff you hate?
Yeah. Come on over. Lots of variety, gaming, food, and a lot of banter as well. A lot of fun. So definitely check out the Raeside if you want more of that.
And I personally feel that your gaming streams are too long and they should just be 5 minutes. Is that an option?
Okay, one person's input. I'll change everything. Just for you.
Oh yeah, before the show, Hannah was telling us about some comments she's gotten. So yeah, but check out the Raeside for long form and short form Star Wars content. It's good stuff.
For whatever time commitment you have.
Exactly. And that's Raeside. And also make sure you're following the Star Wars Underworld on social media. Chris, I've already seen, has posted some stuff from WonderCon. I assume he's actually posting it and not doing what I did, which was send everything to Ben and say, you post it.
What are you referring to?
During Toronto Comic-Con, I just started messaging Ben going, I can't make the social medias work. Please post all these pictures for me.
Look, if you're referring to the mall packaging post, that was 90% me.
That was
that was me. That was Chris sending me a photo and then me going, "Hey, how's this look?" He's like, "Great, send that." I'm the liaison for all the social media. You guys don't do anything. I do it all.
We've given up on posting stuff ourselves. We just send it to Ben, and he posts it for us, and we appreciate it. Ben's social media,
and that's what I'm fully expecting during Celebration. Just like here's 5,000 photos. Please post them in the next 5 minutes for me.
Hey, you'll be lucky if it's just 5,000 pictures. I'll send you 10,000 pictures.
I would be disappointed if it wasn't.
All right, that's enough from all of us. We'll be back. We'll be back next week. We'll see everybody Thursday for more discussion. Enjoy the finale. Enjoy Mandalorian, and we will see you on the pod for the discussion. But until then, for Ben, for Hannah, for Chris, for all the other wonderful people at the Star Wars Underworld, get your salutes ready. My name is Dominic, and may the Force be with you. It's a wrap.